Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony and for what you and your folks do for the country. We appreciate it. Director Mueller, I want to talk to you about the Moussaoui situation. I don't know how much you can talk about this, but there's been a kind of ongoing concern in Minnesota about the facts of what happened there. That's been an issue. You may or may not be aware of that. In the Ms. Hill's statement for today, there's the section on page 21 where they're talking about that the Minneapolis agent in charge, who I think was acting, I don't think there was at that time a whatever the title is of the person that's in charge of the office.
Special agent in charge.
Yeah. That he was, according to this statement here, trying to get the people at FBI headquarters spun up because he was trying to make sure that Moussaoui did not take control of the plane and fly it into the World Trade Center. And then further on it says that the person at headquarters doesn't remember that conversation. When we had the gentleman here that was in Minneapolis, one of the people, the other day, I asked some questions about this, and there was some responses that were then later changed. What I'm interested in, if it's possible to get on the public record exactly what happened between Minneapolis and the Radical Fundamentalist Unit or the headquarters or whatever it was. Are you familiar with have you looked into that and are familiar with what happened between the acting agent in charge in Minneapolis and your folks at those units?
I think one of the I am generally familiar with the facts, yes, and not the day-to-day conversations, but I think the breakdown came in that there was a desire to get a court order allowing the agents to look at the laptop and other provisions. There was a disagreement as to whether or not there was sufficient evidence that would link Moussaoui, the individual, to a foreign power, which is a terrorist group. Doesn't have to be a country, so to speak, recognized country. And there was some disagreement based on a faulty interpretation of the law at the lower levels. That's my understanding. And that
was that in Minneapolis, or
pardon?
Was that in
no at headquarters?
Headquarters.
And in the discussion with the agent in the Minneapolis office, and it did not get elevated to where it perhaps should have been either in Minneapolis or.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned about that whole issue because I think we've been through that, but it's my understanding that the agent in charge in Minneapolis actually went above. Maybe one or two levels above the place that he originally called to try to get somebody to listen, because they were convinced that there was something going on here, and they were very agitated that they couldn't get anybody in headquarters. So do you know if the agent in Minneapolis called other people beyond the first person that they called where they got into this whole issue about whether they had as I understand it, there were calls made to people above that. I don't think at your level, but people at pretty high levels by this agent to try to get this.
I am not aware of that. Hold on just one second. After 9/11, there were. After 9/11, but not before 9/11, apparently.
Well, it's my understanding that there were calls made prior to 9/11 to people above. And we keep getting conflicting information.
Well, I will have to get back to you on that.
Could you, would it be possible, and I don't know what the legalities are with the trial and everything, could you get me the chronology of actually what the contacts were between Minneapolis and who was talked to, and
surely,
so we can lay this to rest, because there's been some press accounts and there's been some concern in the Minneapolis office about what the agent there did and didn't do, and whether they did enough and so forth.
Well, a couple of things. I would think everybody was concerned about Moussaoui. That's why he was arrested. They were very much concerned about what he might do, which is why the agent made the decision when this came to him to take Moussaoui off the streets on the immigration. And so he was incarcerated during that period of time and was therefore deterred and detained. I was out in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago and talked to the office and praised them with the agents there and the support and the analysts for the work that they had done in pursuing Moussaoui, because I think they did a terrific job. The issue on the disagreements on whether or not you had sufficient information to go forward on a FISA at a particular time did not go as far in the organization as it perhaps should, and we have changed that since September 11th. So if the same situation happened today and there was a disagreement as to whether or not you had sufficient to go forward on a FISA, it would come all the way up to me, ultimately, if it could not be resolved at a lower level. But I do believe the agents at the in Minneapolis did an excellent job, and from the day one pursuing it, there were miscommunications back at headquarters that were unfortunate, but it's been resolved.
Well, if you could get somebody to get me the how that went, that would appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.